Hey guys, back with another tutorial today. This is going to be a short tutorial and it's basically answering a request from someone who left a comment. I forget who they were. Apologies if you're watching, this was basically addressing that. You wanted something dark, funky. So I've got something that's quite groovy and quite funky, and this is good for kind of really swanky techno or kind of groovy, whatever you want to call it. But I've got a kind of a bunch of different things here that would potentially go on to become a track, and we're going to go through some of these things, and in particular the bass, of course, and how it references with everything else. Okay, so let's have a listen to what we have. We've got a bunch of different arpeggiated kind of elements. Okay, so a bit rough there, but I was basically giving you a good idea of what we're working with here. Okay, so we'll come on to this in a minute. Let's just concentrate on the core of this, which is of course the bass. And the kick, the bass wouldn't be anything without the kick in this instance. So this is the bass. Okay, let's have a listen. Pretty simple stuff. A lot of scope for processing on this, guys. I've processed this very lately, so obviously there is scope to go in and tweak it even more. But let's just talk about how we got to this sound. Okay, so in this instance I actually started off with a kick. Okay, this is the kick here. Initially it was up at 0. I brought it down to -2 semitones because I quite like it quite thick and quite chunky. It sounds quite good like that. Then I made a loop with a little fill on the end here with a bit of a volume fade. Let's have a listen to that. Okay, just gives it a bit of groove. And that's what's happening with the kick. Now I've also got this other kick here, which is a longer kick. And I've got this here because it sounds good as well, because it's in the right key, but it entirely differently characterizes how the low end sounds together. But we'll get onto that in a minute. Okay. Now for this kick, all I have done is I've added some subtractive EQing. Okay. So, as you can hear here, pressing the headphone button, we can zone in Get rid of these shitty frequencies. Don't need that. And we've boosted the highs, so we've got the kick sitting reasonably nicely, so that we can mix the bass with it, okay? So I'm reasonably happy with that, and I've moved on. Again, there's room for saturation and whatnot after. It doesn't actually sound like it needs it sometimes, mind you. But anyway, let's get on to this. So, how I got this bass was, as you can see here, I played this in, and I chose two notes. This one, these two notes, okay? And these two notes are in key with what I'm doing, funnily enough. So we've got F and we've got A, okay? A sharp, what you want to call it. So before I played in this with the keyboard, I hummed it out to myself. Okay, I sat here and I was like, okay, what do I want this track to be like? I want some funky bass line. I want something to really bounce it along. So I sat here and I was like, dun, 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 dun. And it might sound stupid to you doing this, but believe me, this is probably one of the best ways of coming up with your bass lines. You know, ask any guy in a band. He'll be sitting there going, bop, 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 bop. You know, that's how the guy will come up with his bass lines. So when you're a drummer in a band, you'll be like, it's not stupid, and it's actually a really effective way of coming up with good ideas. So get your phone out and start recording bass lines. That's what I can say to you. Anyway, that's what I did here, and I brought it down to one small snippet that I liked, i.e. this one. And I haven't quantized it or used any groove. The reason being, I naturally played it in a bit out of time. And I did that because I wanted the organic feel of the bass line. Again, getting this idea of a bassist playing in with a band or over the drum track. That's what I'm trying to do, okay? So let's listen to this. Now this kick has actually got a bit of a click on it. So can fade that out. Just that's not too bad. Okay. I'm going to leave it in there just now, because I'm going to have to go through this and edit it, but we'll leave it there. Anyway, yeah, I quite liked that because it sounded quite rough. Now say I didn't do that, and I thought, I want to quantize this, so you go for your standard 16, 100%. I mean, yeah, that sounds good, okay, but this sounds a little bit off, and I like that, especially when you play it with the rest of the track, and it just gives it that extra little bit. Got some EQ in here, just some basic EQ and an overdrive, and some compression. Now, one thing for compression, guys, and one thing for the kick and the bass. Let's get back to the fundamentals here. You've got to shape and tailor your bass to your kick drum, not the other way around. Your kick drum is the leader of the band, okay? He's the one who's at the forefront of the track. He is the guy he's the boss, yeah? And he tells everyone else what to do. So you better be in the good books with the kick drum, all right? Might be a bit of a strange analogy, but it's true. The kick drum leads the way, especially the bass. The bass and the kick drum are like a married couple, okay? The bass has got to mould and gel around the kick drum, and the kick drum's got to be the dominant, repetitive punch, okay? And we're going to get into how I've actually... Now we've got the rough groove, now we're going to get into how the bass was made, okay? So it was very simple. We're using a sine wave, okay? We're pushing this attack ever so slightly forward so that it rushes in as opposed to straight in, okay? We'll go over that in a minute. And the two things we're modulating or characterizing are the pitch envelope and the time. Both of these things work hand in hand, okay? So without any of this, sounds pretty shit, okay? But with it, sounds a bit kind of off and a bit funky, you know, it has something. Now, if you move this up and down and this up and down, which I'll do just now, you'll hear how it changes the whole sound, especially if you play it with the kick drum. Okay, so there's lots of combinations in there that you can use, but for me, this is where I like it, because I've tailored it to my kick, okay? Don't just use a preset, get stuck in and tailor it. Now this is the most important, the envelope. Tune or tailor your envelope of your bass to that of your kick. I'll say that again, tailor the envelope of your bass to your kick. Okay, if you can get them bouncing off each other and grooving, then the rest of the track will be a hell of a lot easier to make. If it's not bouncing each other, and if there's not a, you know, if your foot isn't tapping when you're listening to it, there's something wrong. So, two key things. Once you've got this and this down, once you've got the pattern down, it's time to shape the kick. And the two parameters are the attack and the release here. So you notice how drastically everything changes when I move the attack and the release, especially with the release. It gives it a completely different sound, and then the closer back or the further back you bring the release, the more jacking it has, more jacking the sound is. So what you want to do is get it to a reasonable position and then listen to the rest of your track and move the release up and down until it sounds right. Then you will have tailored your bass to your kick, okay? Okay, so sounds not bad. Bit of work needed on the bass, but sounds quite good. Now the rest of the things are all percussive elements that I've got that just kind of work. Some call and response stuff here. Okay, left, right. I've got some synths here, reverb, ping pong delay, and another reverb. Okay, nothing spectacular going on here either. Yeah, okay, that fills up the rest of the space. Now we've also got this kick, remember? Now I wanted to show you the difference. So we've got a kick with a long tail. Now listen to how this affects our bass line. almost sounds dun 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 instead of dun 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 dun. And yeah, I quite like how different kicks characterise the sound. So should you, and you should experiment. You know, once you've got it, you can go in and start getting a bit funky with the pattern and messing around with it. But when you've got it at this stage, that sounds pretty good. You can then think about adding in some other stuff. So I'll quickly go over this. We've got an arpeggio pattern here. I'm using 3 sounds layered on top of each other. Okay, this bass with some reverb, with this other sound. This is a bit kind of stereo. And then I've layered it with a top, so low or punch kind of backgrounds, and then tops with this pan to the right. Okay, these are all panned slightly differently as well. And that gives you a kind of full and you've got some a cappella here with some auto pan and some reverb. It's just a sample I've got off from YouTube, guys. The Edge of Infinity, if you want to get it. And I've got this loop that I'm using as a kind of atmospheric, continuous thing in the back. Meow, meow, that sound. Okay, thank you for watching, guys. If you have any questions on anything I've covered, get in touch with me. Hopefully this has been useful to you, and I'll see you all very soon. Take care.